Hello and welcome to this introduction to GraphQL. This is my first session on this Global Hack Week, API Week. I was in the bus stream with Whitby running today on Global Hack Week. So, you know the agenda for today. You know we are starting this exciting trip to the GraphQL world. And I see some GraphQL enthusiasts for what I think. Here, welcome back, Alberto. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Alberto. So it's so nice to be here. You're amazing, amazing hackers joining me. So let's start with our stream. But first, as always, I like to test if you can see me well, if you can hear me well. Due to light conditions, I think my virtual background it's kind of messing up with my hair, but that doesn't matter. Some other hellos here. That's cool. So if you can hear me and you can hear me, we're ready to start. Audible and visible, amazing. Thank you a lot. So first, hi, folks. Oh, I recognize that background. It's from one of the. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing this is a mono background from GitHub Education team, right? So, where do you take that picture? Were you in a GitHub event or something like that? Are you a campus expert? I do. I am a campus expert actually. MLH offline hackathon. That's cool. Game dev in JS sessions. That's cool. Hello. Yeah, as you may know, for if you were in other sessions of me, I'm a JS developer. So we're going to use GraphQL, yes, but we are going to execute that on JavaScript. GraphQL have support for other languages, and that's really cool. But we are going to use JavaScript because JavaScript rules. Hey Alberto, how are you? I'm very fine. Thanks for asking. So, sorry, I got exciting for all the comments. The same background was in the sessions. That's cool. That's cool. Um, so yeah, let's start. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. Give me a second, and I will tell you when allowed. GraphQL. Okay, yeah. We're going to use what for GraphQL? JavaScript. Yes. Hey, JavaScript fans. And what I meant with that is that somehow we have to make requests, right? So we're going to use GraphQL node package for that. And plus, we're going to use the Express Express library, framework, extension, package, whatever you can call it. I do not experience in yes, yeah, don't worry. For running our server. Uh, Apollo client. No, we're not going to use Apollo yet. Apollo is an interesting tool, but for the session, we're going to only use nodes, Express, and GraphQL. No Apollo need this time. Apollo is very cool when you want to use it for example, React. But in this case, we're not going to create an app or something that consumes the API. We're going to create indeed an API that someone that serves the information and a way, and we're going to show a way for fetching that information from a server that we create plus a server that it's already in use, and that it is a really cool API for experimenting in all ways. Like I'm using it for creating my first apps. I using it for understanding how pagination works, for understanding GraphQL, and well, this is going to be your case this time. I'm going to try it either in CCP or Python side by side. That would be amazing, and you can share the code here. Sounds cool. I am going to try JS and Ruby. That's really cool. Can we use Python or Java for this? Yeah. Let me see very quickly if GraphQL have support for that. For Python, I think it does, but for Java, I'm not sure. That's a interesting question. Let me look for that. Okay, this is where I start sharing my screen. Okay, here are the code tools for GraphQL. Um, in popularity, there's Insomnia, Prisma, Dgraph, blah blah blah. The Apollo client we were talking about, GraphQL, GS, Relay, Graphy. But let's look for Java. No, 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 no. Java coupling, Java plus coupling, GraphQL Java. Yeah, they have support for that. So, yeah, you're good. And we were talking about Python, right? So, Python, yeah, yeah. There are many ways you can use this with Python. Graphene, Strawberry, GQL. It's the client in Python. Um, so so you're good. Yeah, you can use it. But I am not going to give support for that. Um, so that's up to you, but that's an interesting challenge. If you know Python better than me, you should be good to go. What we are going to learn here, it's not Python, it's not Java, it's GraphQL indeed. For the database, we are not going to connect database. This is going to be really an introduction to what GraphQL is. So don't worry about connections with clients, Apollo, the Strawberry for Python, the Kotlin. Don't worry about all languages connections. Don't worry about the database. Don't worry about that. We are going just to learn why GraphQL is very cool. Indeed, there's how you call this. There's a video, but in long termal. Let me look for this word. The word I'm looking for, documentary. There's a documentary, sorry, about how they created GraphQL. GraphQL was born, if I remember well, inside what the Meta team now is inside Facebook. They created it because AP REST has major things that if you have been working in production environments and you have now the necessity to change something, I don't know, but the API, the backend team gave you as a response, but you need it in another way. And well, now the app needs to be updated, but same as the call in the front end. So backend and front end needs to coordinate to see how they respond and how they get the data. That's very messy stuff. But with the help of GraphQL, you can fetch for what you want. You can query all the information existing in a schema without having to change your API version, without having to change anything else, right? Just changing the parameter or the query body, the query body that you pass to the petition. So that's a great thing. It has pros and cons. for sure. But if you ask me what's better, API REST or GraphQL, well, the question is simple because GraphQL was born to the problems of REST. So if you think of that, yes, you add more complexity in terms of having the team to learn a new tool, a new language. But once they get past that learning curve, everything else it's really sweet. I mean, like really sweet. And working back end, front end, it's get kind of diffuse, kind of you end up working in a more uh, in a bigger structure to tell in some way. But yeah, that's the thing with API REST versus GraphQL. How are GraphQL API different from REST APIs? I think I just answered this, but we will see this in live action. Pretty sure all languages work. Yeah, maybe all popular languages work. Hey, thanks for this. Cool. I wish this session in Python only. No, sorry. Graphene is good for Python. Thanks for the recommendation here. For anyone waiting to search the option, here's the tool and libraries community. Yeah, thank you. Can you share the link to the documentary? Yeah, we're going to start with that. As always, we need to start with the documentation when we're learning a new tool, right? What does GraphQL do? Does the same that API REST, but better. It's the modern way to consume API. That's the honeypot. That's what Alberto means. Yeah, the YouTube channel, the honeypot. I'm thinking this is the link. Has a documentary about how GraphQL was created, and that's really cool. Actually, honeypot has amazing documentaries. They have over GraphQL and React and well, beautiful technologies out there. I am too late. No, we're just starting. Well, you got to learn and adapt many languages. Even you master one, a good software developer must know quite a lot of them, accordingly to my perspective. That's one come handy according to this her background. Um, I am late. Hi everyone. No, you're not late. Um, 10 man. I actually agree with you. The big difference between a programmer and someone who knows a syntax, well, for me, knowing how to program it is not mastering one language. When you know how to program, you know how to abstract your ideas and pass them as instructions to the computer. It doesn't matter if it is on Python or JavaScript or on other languages. um, so when you're a good programmer, you have the ability to start using new languages oftenly. Like, hey, I am now doing Python and I am now doing Java and I am now doing C++ or C Sharp or things like that. The thing is, getting to know the syntax for the language you use has the advantage of how to say it, mastering your language. It's a good practice, but yeah, you need to start experimenting and exploring with other languages too. So that's cool. Thank you for the feedback here, and I would really love to read the interesting comments you're sharing. Thank you, Tame. I know that your suggestion. I do love to explore often programming languages too, and I appreciate it. Thanks. So we're on the same page, I think, everyone here. I watched their Ruby on Rails documentary. It's very interesting to hear. Yeah, yeah, I know. So the big recommendation here is the Honeypot channel on YouTube. What's your rate? So, I don't know why they're asking for ages. I think we should do this personal chat. Yeah, you probably, uh, but that's cool. Go through Discord and have a great conversation. But first, let's start with this session. So I'm sharing again. Here's the GraphQL main page. It's just graphql.org. Let me copy and paste it here on chat. Now you have it. And what do we have here? Well, GraphQL is defined as a query language for your API, right? So that's the main idea here. What this query language helps us for? To describe our data. That means create our schema. You will get used to that phrase. Ask for what we want. That means create a query. And then we get predictable results. And this may sound redundant, right? Like, why should we get predictable results? That's what we want. Yes, but that's the thing I was issuing about REST API. If you don't have good practices on the way how you create the endpoints on your team, on the way how the front end consumes that endpoints, I don't know, many bad practices at the industry. Well, these get predictable results. It's not often achieved. Um, the thing with GraphQL is that from the basics, from the foundations of the query language, this third part, this get predictable results, it's guaranteed. So let's say you have a project schema. You have that with a name, a tagline, and contributors, having a users array, which is the users schema. And then you ask for the tagline of the projects with the name GraphQL. Well, what you get about that is the project tagline, just like that, a query language for APIs. That's it. If you want more, you can ask for more. If you want less, you can ask for less. No matter if server hasn't changed, because here there are no endpoints. So the main difference, returning to the question of REST API and GraphQL, it's with GraphQL, you don't need to have a specific purpose endpoints to call for the information you have. And well, yes, in REST, you can ask for query parameters in the URL, in the endpoint, and change things like names, for a look for pagination, look for quantity, talking about I want the first 30 characters or the first blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's possible. But really, GraphQL, it's built for that. I will have to say REST API is just a turnaround about the problem. That works fine. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about REST API, but here, give it a chance to GraphQL, and you will see how the complicated things on REST start to get easier. So the query language of GraphQL is for the APIs and the runtime for filling those queries with your existing data. We can see here a live demo of the query and the response. And as I was saying, if you ask for the name, you get the name. If you ask for the height, you get the height. If you delete the mask, the height, and you just want again back the name, you get it. You change the query and you change the response dynamically. So you can search for whatever you want. You can ask for what you want. That's the main idea here. And that, again, that can sound silly and you can think, well, that's basic. But no, the thing is, they wasn't that simple. And with GraphQL now we have it. We have it. It's simple. You ask for what you want. That's it. And here we can talk about another things that are patterns, about how you can build, for example, in the query that we build, the schema that we are creating, that what does that represents. If we have the schema of the query. We have character. Character is built with a name, with friends, or homeworld, species, or friends are of a character schema. The character schema has another things. The planet schema has a name indeed. The climate indeed. The species schema has the name indeed. The lifespan indeed. The origin. The, the the origin has the planet again. So you see how all that's connected. Uh, what do we have? Here you will see how Graphy works. GraphQL, it's a graph interface to see how these effects or how these how to say it, the queries are reflected. It's really cool when you start developing your API or yeah, the API you've been working on, and helps to document all the information on the API. Because remember here we don't have a endpoint, so a usual documentation for API with REST could be if you call this endpoint, you can pass these parameters and you will receive this information. But in GraphQL, we don't have the endpoints, so you need to show what it's all the information that the API is containing, right? So it gives like a playground where you can start modifying the queries to see what the output is, and well, ensure that the information that you want matches the query that you are creating. Uh, and here's the other thing I was mentioning about, that you can evolve your API without version, because you can update wherever you want, and the query is not going to change. The query is going to work the same. If you want another thing, you add it. If you don't want a field in your schema, as the example here moving, you just add a deprecating tag, and well, you can remove it, and then no need to well, the query is not going to broke, and that's the major thing here. You don't need to version, just you need to deploy the API, and the API will be living happily. And here they talk about the data and the code. They have the JavaScript example, as we were mentioning, the Python examples, and everything else. What do we have? Come on. C sharp. Over there will be C++, I'm guessing. No, it's Python again. So if you have the trust to start your APIs with GraphQL, well, Facebook does, GitHub does, Pinterest does, Intuit does, Coursera does, and Shopify does. So these are like the big users, but you can explore more here. What else? Well, if you go to the what I was going to show. No, sorry, I lost track of this. Tools only race. This was the link I was using for just checking like what servers or client or services or whatever you can use for consuming GraphQL. In our case, we're going to use JavaScript, GraphQL JS. This is the library that we're going to use, the most popular one. Because, for example, here Apollo, again, it's cool, it's nice, but it's not what we want right now. This I will recommend Apollo for bigger applications. Right now, just for the basics, we're going to use GraphQL, EAS, and that's it, right? So let me check if we have some comments here. Um, I watch, yeah, sure. Okay, I think we don't. So let's return to here and let's go to learn. Here, I want you to take a look to this, the available training courses. So I'm going to share this link so you can learn more after this session is done, right? So that's the cool thing here. And again, let's start with the basics of how GraphQL works. GraphQL is a query language for your API. It's server-side runtime for executing queries in that type system. This is very important. This is a type system. So if you come from a language that it's not often typed, like me, for example, in JavaScript. Well, actually, I do TypeScript most of the time because I work with Angular or Python that it's not strongly typed. But for example, in C Sharp or C++ that they were talking about in the comment section, well, you should be used to this. Well, it's a type system that identifies your data. GraphQL isn't tied to any specific database, so you can use it with whatever database you want. That's for sure. And it's instant back for your existing code and data. So a very good practice, if you have already done an server, an API with a connection to a database and stuff, well, I encourage you to try to change the whole API REST idea of running endpoint and etc. And just try to do the same, but with GraphQL, because when you create a project like this, the server, and you have the connection to a database, there's a very good practice and a very good way to test your API, which is trying to switch from one database to another. I mean, there will be a dedicated file for changing how the database connection works to the API. But the opposite, trying to change the the API for GraphQL. In this case, you will have only two options. Well, three if you consider SOAP, but no one does SOAP anymore. But yeah, try to change the REST API for GraphQL, and you will see that it's not that hard if you do well the data consumption part. But yeah, let's continue. We define a type in GraphQL. It's created by defining types and fields on those types, then providing functions for each field on each type. For example, here, the GraphQL service tells you that the login user, me, as well as the user might look like this. Type query me, it's of user, and user it's defined as the ID and a name, right? Along with these functions for each field, for example, we here define the type, and now we are defining the function. So after the GraphQL server is running, well, in this case, typically it's under a URL or a web service. It can receive the GraphQL queries to validate the execution. For example, here is a query. Query, it's going to look for me, remember, and me of type user. So we open a new. This is very similar to JavaScript optiontation, to be honest. So you open new option, sorry, JavaScript object notation, the very well-known JSON. So it's me, open the new object. Inside of me, there should be a field, called name. And for how the schema is constructed, we can verify that. The query looks for me, it's inside user. Sorry, me, it's of type user, and user has a name. So this should return me name, and it's defined just as Skywalker. Why that? Um, how we said that? Well, with the function user returns the get name, and well, how we handle this is up to us. But it returns name that it's defined here in this example as Skywalker, right? So that's the main idea. That's the basic part. So let's start exploring some things called queries and mutations, right? So when we create a GraphQL server, the simplest way to do it is to ask for a specific information, as we were mentioning. So let's start looking at this very simple example. The data that it's returned here on the response, it's related to the query that it's built here. So get familiar with this. This is how a query looks. We have the hero and the name. And if you remember the past sample, we can change hero for me, for example. Me was the way the query, the schema was built. Here they change it for hero. And hero should have a key, if you want to call it that way, that it's called name. So the data is returned as the hero name, it's R2D2. You can see immediately here as the query responds exactly like we want. The field returns the hero name, which is R2D2. So let's continue to more complicated queries. So for this example, we want the hero. For each hero, we want the name, and we want the friend's name. Oh, they mentioned something here that the queries can have comments, and that starts as in Python with what's the name for this? Numeric symbol, I will say. Uh, and here the response says the very same, but we added the friends. So in friends, it's an array containing the friend's name. If we move this, and I don't know, add something like, hey, the ID, we get the ID, right? So we will see really quick how did we change the query and we change the response in live. You see, and you see how beautiful GraphQL is, that not only help us changing, well, giving us these sandbox very, very, very nice, but also giving us like the insights of what it may contain. If I start writing here, I can add an appears in, and that'll give us the New Hope, which is for the Star Wars fans, New Hope movie, Empire movie, and Jedi movie. This it's amazing. So let's see how we can pass arguments, because let's think that we want a specific um, a specific response. You may be thinking why we know that R2D2 is the hero we want. Why don't we look for Luke Skywalker? Well, we can add it as in a function, the function of all life, the ID of 100. And you see here 100, it's Luke Skywalker. That's really cool. If we can change it for 102, this should be Han Solo. And same we can add here. ID 1000, sorry. Oh, no. Hero ID. Hero doesn't have an ID. What does hero have? Hero name, maybe? Okay, we shall inspect the schema to see what hero have. But, well, the example here is good enough. Human has these attributes, in this case an ID, a height, a name. What else? Um, Starships? Do you mean starships with the name of the starship? So Han Solo has the Millennium Falcon and the Imperial Shuttle. That's really cool. And here says, like, in systems like REST, you can only pass a single set of arguments, right? So as I was saying, you can give a workaround of this in REST. You can pass it as a query parameter. But what you can, well, I won't say you can't, because yes, you can do it, but it's really, really complicated when you want to give two parameters. And I am not talking about two parameters applying for the same filter. Like, nesting these parameters, that's when it's really complicated when you want to do it in Rust. But here, for example, we can change the parameter passed for querying humans and another parameter for the height. That's interesting, right? So another thing, for example, returning to this example here, it's Starship name. Let's quit this. They should have an ID. And we want, okay, this is not prepared for this yet, but we could change the schema for applying things like this. It's sad that schema wasn't prepared for this, but let's explore the unit option they have here. They have foot, but they should have meter, and it's updated now. And just to show you, this is the same. So I'm guessing, and you can guess the same, that head it's prepared to return the unit as meter as default, but we can change it to foot. Awesome, right? Oh, here it was. But also we can give aliases, fragments, and stuff. There's a lot of things to learn here, but I won't want to give this a boring, let's see, documentation example. So I prepared a folder with instructions on how we can start on our first server API on GraphQL. So let me prepare that to be sure, and I'll be showing you in a second. Let me see also if we have any other examples. Combining fast API with GraphQL, this idea I'm also with. Alberto, is this a correct approach? Fast API. I am not sure. I'm not familiar with Fast API. Let me give a look to it. Fast API with Python. That's the one you're talking about. The Fast API framework, high performance, easy to learn. Modern fast high performance web framework for building APIs with Python based on standard Python type hints. I don't want to lie. To be honest, I am not familiar with fast APIs. So you can try it. You could try building a project under that approach, and well, that will be cool. In Python, it is a dictionary. I think. Yeah, the object notation in JavaScript, they call that dictionaries in Python. Yes, you can. It's not weird. Oh, amazing. um, I am talking about joining two different APIs. Hope it works. Well, actually, the project we are going to review, well, the running API we're going to review has both has an option to consume in GraphQL, but an option to consume in Rust. So you can check that. That will be interesting. Uh, Try with Ariadne, while Fast API is a framework to build APIs, and GraphQL is a core language, so you can learn both. Thanks for responding here. Um, can you elaborate what is type in GraphQL with analogy? Yes, you can combine two APIs as well, but for that you need to check out structures. Yeah. Can you elaborate here on this question? Can you elaborate what is type in GraphQL with analogy? Um, for example, I don't know what's your background, but I will give a Python example and a JavaScript example. In JavaScript, when you create, when you use typing, I mean, when you type in JavaScript and people call it TypeScript, you can define a new type. Remember, in JavaScript, they all are objects. So how you know an object has a method that is I don't know, get name. How you know an object has an attribute that it's name or that it's ID or that it's something else. Well, you define it as a class. When you have a class, you have these objects, but a simpler way in a class you have attributes and methods, right? But when you have only attributes, when you are not expecting to have a method that elaborates a function, a simpler way is to create just an object, not a class, that it's typed and it's expected to have these attributes, that you don't need to call attributes anymore, that it's keys. And these keys should be for a specific type. I'm referring to, you have, for example, the new type Alberto, and Alberto has a key called name, and that key called name should be a string. In JavaScript, you have the primitive types, which are strings, numbers, objects, Boolean, and I can't remember the others. But yeah, so in this case, it doesn't make sense that Alberto key name is from any other type that it's not a string, because I am not going to be called false, or I am not going to be called 172. I am going to be called Alberto or Maria or Juan Luis or something like that. You know, it should be a string. And here, the typing, it's the same. When you define a schema, you say that it's of a type. In the examples we saw, it is a type human, and type human contains an attribute, a key called name, that it's a string, but also contains an attribute, a key called friends. And inside friends, it's of the type human again. You know, you can pause. You can say it's something. It's from its own type, and that's amazing. And in Python, it's almost the same. I mean, you have no you don't need to type things in Python, but you can check for types with the type of, right? I know, sorry, type of it's in JavaScript type. Well, there's a function to check types on Python. And if you're familiar with NumPy or these amazing libraries, which is the main reason I use Python, you will see the type it's the basic the library, in this case numpy, if you call it np dot array dot something, and that will tell you that the people that built the library typed that in order to be of a specific type. What does that mean? An numpy array is not equal to a Python array. A NumPy dictionary, it's not equal to a dictionary. You can change them. You can convert an array of NumPy to a Python array, or both. The other way. That's the thing. But typing means that it gives you the ability to say something are different of other things, and that type should contain specific things. In this case, in the example I mentioned again, uh, human must contain a name, because I haven't known anyone that doesn't have a name, right? That will be interesting. But yeah, sound interesting. I will try, and thanks for honest opinion. Yeah, so I can create my own data type. Yeah, exactly. To the point, I'm a fan of this sort of direct responses by no being versatile. Thanks so much, ethical code. Okay, cool. So let's now share my full window. Okay, now you should see my full window, right? So, uh, and I give a global hack week API, and I create a file called GraphQL. So here, let me move this thing around here. Here, what we need to do is open this MD, and let's see for the instructions. The first thing and the most basic thing we need in order to run this on JavaScript, GraphQL.js, which is what I am going to use. If you're using Python, Strawberry, if you're using the other languages or the other clients for GraphQL, that's okay. But these instructions will not apply to you. First, you will need to have Node installed. You can find Node installation guides here on nodejs.org. Slash English or Spanish or whatever you want. It's the it's the way we can run JavaScript. That's the main idea here. Once you have it installed, well, you need to check the version just for ensure your installation was completed. And another thing that comes with Node, it's npm, which is the Node package manager. So in this case, we are going to need that for creating the project. You need to run npm init dash while. This is just for prevent you to confirm a lot of things. And then after that, you should see two files, one called package.json, like this one, another called package.lock.json. And once those steps are completed, for those one with no prior JavaScript, how to say, experience, well, what we done here is to start our JavaScript project. This it's created. The name it's GraphQL. My version it's one. The main file it's index.js. You can change it in this case, for example, to server.js or whatever you want. The license under where you're working, the dependencies in for your case. When this is done, you shouldn't see anything here. This is just because I already installed this, but don't worry about this. We are getting on that. And that's it. The package JSON is created. Then after that, well, we need to install package, sorry, in npm install GraphQL. And once we install GraphQL, now under the dependencies, we should see here GraphQL. Here I have another ones. Don't put too much attention here, but the important one is GraphQL. GraphQL as a package for JavaScript, it's installed using Node Package Manager, npm. And then create a new file called server.js. This file should contain this information. Let me open this, but on a preview view. So here we can get this, and let me copy this, and under my server this was actualized, but we are going to revert this. Okay, cool. So what do we have here? And after this, we just need to run our server. But let's inspect what we actually have here. We require from the package that we just installed two things: GraphQL and the building schema. Remember, we created this we need this in order to build the schema. This is the schema that we are creating, same as the example of human, of hero, or anything. In our case, it will be very simple. This schema is about a query that has the attribute, the key, the line hello, and hello is of type string, right? So the another thing we want is GraphQL. Indeed, GraphQL, we are going to pass the schema we built. We are saving it in the schema variable. The source, that will be just hello. A source refers to the query. So in this case, we are just querying for hello. If I added here, for example, not hello, that it is a type of string too, and adding here like that, not hello, we are going to change the query that's here for the how to say the schema we're looking for. But in this case, that was just a bad example to specifying that this hello is the query to the schema. And the other thing is the root values. The root values provides the resolver the actual value of the hello. So yes, here on the schema, we declare this should be type string, but it doesn't have a value yet, right? So how we give it the value? Well, giving it a resolver for the hello, the same attribute, key name, the same line, the resolver of hello world. So if we change this to, I don't know, true, this will throw us an error because we mentioned that hello should be a string. Well, we don't mention, we actually declare it. We say it should be a string. So let's return it to how it was. Then the resource, it's for hello. The root value returns us the value of hello. And after we call this, we should see or expect the output. How we run this for all new in JavaScript? Well, node server JS. And the response tells us that hello, it's hello world. Let's try to change this, let's try to modify our example, and let's try to experiment with more things. You will see I added the bad example of not hello. Let's give not hello a string to, and the resource to give us not hello. And let's see how this behaves. Well, we changed the query. Well, that's another thing. Let's run this example, but without changing the query. You see the response is the same. Why is that? Well, we could change the schema. We could add a lot of things. We could add a me, which is from human. Then add the type human with the same things, a name, an age, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Even we can add a function to that to return name, return gender, right? But if we don't change the query, this will give us again and again the same. And remember, that's why we are just querying for hello. We are not querying for the name of the human in me. We are not querying for a not hello. We're just querying for hello. Now, if we modify our query, if we add that now we want the not hello and we want the name in me, that's not Jondo, that's Alberto Camarena. Oh, this is type null. Okay, but the rest worked perfectly. You know, this is the main idea here. And the first thing and the most complicated thing, it's defining our query. Our schema. But once we have this schema, now we can start experimenting and querying different type of things. And let's try to say like, hey, why don't we ask for the name but not the age, and just if it is a type of human, but human it's equal to unhuman, but unhumans have superpowers and things like that. That's the same. If you're used to object-oriented programming, this should be very, very, very easy to you. Like having the knowledge of how types work and how they can heritate classes and what they contain and what they don't. That's the easy part here. Where those GraphQL starts getting complicated, well, you read when I was showing the documentation about mutations, about aliases, about more in-depth things. But this far, we have not only achieved the same that an API REST could do, but we improve it because now we can change this dynamically. We can change this or petition or query in order to be changed as we want, and that's the cool thing. But I am running the server and the query on the same side, and that doesn't feel that good, you know? We need to get our server up, that the server is still running, and now we need to change our query real time to see how that affects the response, right? And how we do that, it's with our next step, that is the part two, adding express. So this far, we have installed GraphQL. That's cool, but we need to add more installs, which is Express, GraphQL HTTP. This is the same, GraphQL HTTP, and Ruru, right? Why is that? Well, we will require it to run the server, the HTML server. And you will see. Give me a second, and just to see if you have any question this far. Exactly. One can start pursuing his dream. And well, I think this is for you. Please share the GitHub repo so we can fork. I haven't put in on the repo, but I will do it at the end of the session. Sorry, and I will share it to you. Don't worry. Um, we are a community here. You're welcome. Yeah, oops, connect to our quiet level here. Me name, can you explain again? Yeah, let me explain that about me name again. And let me push this to a rip. So here, this is the question, right? Me name. Why me name? Well, we define an attribute me inside the query. Query, it's going to, and this is going to be type human. Human should be defined as a new type that contains a name, and that name is a string. So that's why me it's referring to this me here inside the query. This me it's type human. So if I quit this will have no sense because me will not return anything. You see, actually, there's a problem here. Me it's of type human, and it must have a selection of subfields. So what you want from me? Well, what I want from me is the name. The thing here that's actually causing the problem of returning null, it's that I need to add probably a me function that returns a new human. Either human that returns no, actually I think that this should be fine here. Let's run it. No, it steals null return this. Yeah, So here, this is what I meant to. Me, well, let me explain more verbally what I was doing. First, we have just the hello, right? We query for hello. Hello, it was defined inside the type of query as a string. So in the root value, the resolver of the values, because remember, here we just define the type, we just define the schema. But in this part, we don't give a value for that. And we need a value in order to show what's the reason of defining a schema if they don't have a value. Well, hello has a value of hello world. Then we define and we added another part to the schema, which was the not hello, and that was for a string too. So it was easy. Same. We just need to return a string to the not hello resolver that tell us this is not a hello or not hello world. And then we add another thing, which is the me. The me attribute to the query type. It's not a string. It is not an integer. It is not a boolean. It's its own type. That's a human, and we need to define that. We define human as a type that contains a name and an age. The name should be a string because, as I was saying, it doesn't make sense when you translate it to the real world that a name is a number or a boolean or another type or whatever. It should be a string. And I have an age. And in this case, my age could be a string. Yes, why not? We could add 31 years old, 21 years old, 20, 62 weeks of life. I don't know. Uh, but to be practical, this should be an integer, referring to the years. And as the resolver for this, we should return an object of that type. That means, in this case, hello, it's a string. Not hello, it's a string. Human, it's here, the object. This makes sense for JavaScript. For Python should be a dictionary. Object, that it has name and the age. And name, it's a string, same as here, and age is an integer or a number here, right? So if I query for me without passing what I want for me, that's a problem. And you see the output here. The output tells us human, it's not defined. No, yeah, human. No, this wasn't the output. Here, type must be a selection of subfields. So what do you want? You want me, but what inside of me you want? In this case, I want my name, just like that. So if you see, even my age is defined, but I don't see here in the response because I am not querying it. I can add it for sure. I can add it on the query. And now the response give it to me. And that's the magic of GraphQL. You get what you want. You get what you ask for. That's it. So I hope that resolves the question. And let's continue to the next part, which is running this with Express. So steps. Port 2. Adding Express. So I hope we have installed Express, GraphQL, HTTP, and Ruru, right? So we need to modify our server in order to add this. I will give you this fully as it is. So I will create a server 2.js and add this. I don't know why these spaces that I hate. But yeah, that's cool. So We require express from express. We require create handler for the GraphQL HTTP library that uses express. We require the build schema for GraphQL, and we require Ruru HTML from the Ruru server. So again, we build our schema. Actually, let's copy the schema that we had here. Cool. So we have a more interesting schema here. Then we set the resolvers for this. Let's again copy the resolvers. And then this is the different thing. We need to create an app, which will be the server, using Express. So easy as that, just easy as that. We run Express, the two, what's the word for this? Parentheses. This is how you execute a function in JavaScript, and we save it on a variable called app. Then app contains the Express server, and now it has a method called all that we pass how to say a URL called GraphQL that receives the schema and the root value. And that's it. So when you call the server, you make a get for this, and we put it on the Ruru HTML handler. We set the endpoint to GraphQL. So this is kind of tricky because you may be thinking, hey, Alberto, I thought you mentioned no endpoints needed here on GraphQL. Well, it is true, but it is not at the same time. The thing is, to put this running on a server, we need to make help of GraphQL, of REST API, of the architecture that actually we have. And pull the whole GraphQL, the whole GraphQL project we have inside an endpoint, and that endpoint will be called GraphQL. And that's it, I swear. That's the only endpoint we need, GraphQL. And then we listen to the port 400, and we say, hey, we're running this API server at the localhost 400. So let's get our server up and running. So we said we have running a GraphQL API server, and we can now ask for these schemas live. You will see you just need this GraphQL endpoint, and modifying the query, we can receive many multiple responses for the same endpoint, for just the same endpoint. So that's why I had prepared here this test. Oh no, oh well, why? I spoiled you. Sorry. I spoiled you about the another thing we're going to do. So our server queries. We are going to fetch to HTTP localhost. Methods will be post, headers this, body of the query, and query should be of this type. If I just type of hello, and then, well, this terminal is running our server. Oh, what? This terminal is running our server, so I'll open a new terminal, and I will node execute the test JS file. What's that? Oh, I just received the hello, right? That's it. That's all we want. That's all we ask it for. But I will add the not hello. So I received the not hello in live. I mean, server, it's running. It's here. I haven't modified anything. I swear. This is all on camera. So you build the schema. You build it with me. You build the resolvers. You build it with me. Now the only thing we added is a little help of Express to keep this server running. So Express is our server, not our API. Our API, it's here. It's our schema. It's our GraphQL. So now here, I should add me, name, and age. Oh, return to this. And now I get it. I receive hello, not hello, me, name, and age. Now I don't want anymore the not hello and not hello, because that was garbage. That was our hello world. I just want me and my name. And I receive it. Me, my name is Alberto Camarena. That's how it's stored. That's how we want it. Now you want this dynamically, change the resolvers in order to connect to a database to receive many me's. In this case, you can change it to persons, to people, to humans, to whatever you want, and start populating your database. You will see this. You will receive this. That's really cool, isn't it? And now the spoiler I just made to you queries to the querying the Rick and Morty API. So let me comment this and uncomment the rest of the code. And well, here we'll see the Rick and Morty API. Rick and Morty API, who doesn't love Rick and Morty? It's a really, really cool TV show. Well, here we have all the characters. For example, the name, the status, if it is alive, the last known location, the first scene, the how to say it, the episode. So we can go to the docs, and you will see they have a GraphQL support. So as I mentioned before, you just need to come here. You just need one endpoint. They have their server running on rickandmortyapi.com/GraphQL, and inside GraphQL you have anything you need. Instead of REST that has an API, and inside GraphQL you will see the characters, locations, the episodes, and that'll give you the link to where they are stored. So now you need to add /character, /location, /episode, make a get, make a post, make something else, pass as the body the information that you want. You want count, you want pages, you want next. No, sorry, this is response. But inside, sorry, yeah, I was lying. I was truly lying. You don't need to pass this as the body, because this is okay. This is what you get. You get information, you get the count, you get the pages, the next, the preview, the results. But this is to help you, because they know when you're running on REST that you should need another page. Yeah, you should need another page, because we need to paginate page 1, page 2. You should need a preview, you should need the count, you should need the pages, you should see the results. And the results, they give you all they want. This is how they prepare the endpoints, and you have no choice to say, "Hey, I just need the name, or I just need the status, or I just need gender. Don't give me the origin, don't give me the location, don't give me the image, don't give me the episode, don't give me that. I just want the info, the count, the results, the location, the ID, and we can have that. If I run this, I will have just the name of the characters, because that's all I want. That's all I ask for. If I want more, well, I maybe add these steps. I maybe add the image. I maybe add the ID. Do I have an image? Yeah. And let's see. Well, now I have a more complex response, but not this complex. Imagine having these for all users. That's what they comment the rest. Well, this is what I wanted. Nothing else, nothing more, but even nothing less. And well, that's the powerful of GraphQL. We have in total 826 characters sorted by ID. And I have here just filter by the episodes from 1 to the 1 and 2. And that's it. That's the main idea. The character schema, it's important to share, to be shared when you build something with GraphQL, because remember, in this case, we don't need endpoints. Well, just one, but we don't need endpoints to connect. I want to ask for the ID. I want to ask for the name. I want to ask for the status, for the species, for the type, for the gender, for whatever what's defined here on the schema. And for example, here we'll see not only the schema for the characters, but the schema for locations, having the ID, the name, the type, the dimensions, the residence, the URL, and the same. And we will scroll down more to see the schema for the episodes. And we will scroll down more to see examples on how to build this on Dart, on Elixirs, on Raw, on Ruby. But yeah, if you didn't know this documentation, if you didn't know this API, it's very cool to learn new things. It's very cool to build projects for when you're learning React, Angular, Rust, when you're learning any technology, in this case GraphQL. So let's, if you don't want to build your own server, well, actually, I encourage you to build your own server to complete the challenges I mentioned before. But if you just want to experiment on querying, you want to say like, hey, let's see how this query can affect blah blah blah, and start changing queries. Well, there's already a server. There's already a function that can help you with that. So I'm going to push this to a repo. I'm going to stop sharing, because this will be my GitHub credentials. And meanwhile, let me know if you have any question. I'll give 2 minutes. That doesn't take me that much to push this to a repo. So I'll be back. Hey, so I'm back. Sorry for not having that on repo yet. That's on me, my bad. But here's the repo now. Oh, here's the repo now. And let's see if we have any comments or any questions. Let's say. Now things are getting a little complex, going right above my head. Don't worry, you can rewatch all time this stream. Here's repo to check to help you out. I shared the documentation. I shared some resources. GraphQL can be threatening at the beginning, but once you get it, it will be all. Well, in Mexico, we have this say that it's oat over honey, something like that. It would be sweet. It's an easy pad. It's there a repo we can work. Yeah, I just showed it. Do technically I can build a local DB using GraphQL? No, technically GraphQL will be the way how you share your local DB, because remember there's two parts. Uh, the database where you get the info, you can have it, you can call it the database as a JSON file, .csv, or whatever where you store the info. More practically, the database should be Mongo or Firestore for Firebase, a real database, MariaDB, something like that. In your project, you should have a file that handles the communication between your database and your project. And then, as you saw on our resolvers, you need to specify the schema, yes, but you need to tell the project how to resolve the data. What does Alberto name is, how many Albertos are, things like that. Well, not Albertos, how the me's are. In this case, if you change the me for person, how many persons are, what the information, what their names, things like that. So yeah, technically, uh, GraphQL is not a DB. It's how you expose your information to the public, to the world. That's an API. That's the meaning of an API. Um, what if we don't know how the API at the endpoints look like? We will have to go inside the API for GraphQL to get the data right. No, because you share these schemas as the documentation of the Rick and Morty API I show you. They show how they build these schemas, so you know what you can ask for. And well, it's up to you on how you ask for that, because remember, we can add aliases, we can add mutations, we can add a lot of things to the queries in GraphQL. So uh, you can be creative about that, but you don't need to go inside the API, the API indeed, and look for the information, because the documentation shows you the schema, and with the schema you build the queries, and that's it. I think it was nothing to do with databases. It is an API querying, as far as I understand all about GraphQL from this session. Yeah, that's the main idea. You get it right. My limited knowledge says that about Alberto will guide us. No, that's exactly, you understand it right. Um, on querying in the sense GraphQL will work like Postman. No, Postman is the client. So inside Postman, you use REST API, but actually Postman has support for GraphQL. So you can add it as a third layer. You have your project running the database, it's getting the information, and how the data it's exposed to the world. How you, for example, if you were the builders of the Rick and Morty API, how you can say, hey, here's the database, you can access it, you can know what the status of Rick Sanchez is, or how many characters do the TV series have, and everything. It's through the API. That's the meaning of an API, application public interface. So the way for building an API, they were the first it was SOAP, then API REST actually came to solve SOAP problems, and now GraphQL came to solve REST problems. So that's what I was meaning at the beginning of the session. If you ask me which is better, well, GraphQL came to solve REST problems. So that's the answer for yourself. Um, but yeah, the database is here on the back. You communicate with your application to the database, but the way how you expose that, how people can access to the database, is through your API. And a way, it's just a way, it's not mandatory, but a way for building that API could be using GraphQL. And we see the advantages of that. We don't need to make versions. We can ask for what we want and we can get it. And yes, using Postman, for example, learning REST for the frontends, if you want to think it on frontends versus backends, learning REST is very easy for frontends because, well, you just need to make posts and gets and, well, all the verbs, right? And just pass the body that your backend tell you. Well, in this case, with GraphQL, you will need to learn a query language, which is the query that you're passing, know the schemas that your backend team give you, and with that, build the query that you want, the information that you want. It's there. It's just matter of learning how to ask for it. That's the thing. Thank you. Thanks, Alberto, for the session. It is the best starting point al mal tiempo darte cara. That's really cool. Yeah, exactly. So this was an introduction to GraphQL. You have now in the repo a template for you to build a server, a way to fetch existing APIs in GraphQL. Just change the query, and that's it. Start experimenting. That get your heart dirty. That's how you learn. Actually, go to the documentation, read a lot of documentation, and that's it. And I'll be around if you have any question. Today at noon, well, no, much later than that. Sorry, it will be 11 p.m. For me on my time zone. I think it is 1 a.m. ET time. I'll be running a session similar like this on how to build an API server, but with the old REST API using Node, which is JavaScript. So join me if you want to learn more about JavaScript and you're interested in how you can expose your data, connect with the world. That's what APIs are for. So thank you so much, and signing out. See you in the night.